Hi everyone and good afternoon. So thank you and welcome for joining us for today's webinar. Let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Heman and I'm a research associate at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. I'm happy to host this webinar. Let me give you a quick rundown about SARIM. SARIM is an organization having the vision and mission of defending the rights of minorities in South Asia. The institute aims to highlight the plight and victimization faced by marginalized minority communities. Our organization finds ways to protect minority against systematic discrimination and social injustice in South Asia. Even in the age of hatred and violence, SARIM arose an organization that promotes the culture of constructive dialogue to highlight the issues and vulnerabilities faced by minority communities and to raise voice to safeguard their rights, specifically within South Asian countries. And today we will be discussing the undemocratic dilemma, persecution against marginalized communities in South Asia. As we all are aware about the persecution of the religion minorities in South Asia has intensified in recent years. It has now reached critical levels according to the report released by Minority Rights Groups International. Despite having the democratic form of government, the region of South Asia is suffering a very constructive approach of granting people the right to live, speak and practice religious and social conducts. It is noteworthy to mention here that these minorities are experiencing violence, persecution, and the exclusion from mainstream South Asian minorities and countries despite having the written constitutions containing guarantees of religion and social freedom. In many instances, these constitution guarantee of religion freedom have been interpreted restrictively and overlooked. To further unfold such narrative, we have a series of speakers who know exactly how it feels when people do not accept you because of your religion, color, and caste. Our speakers are from USA, India, Nepal, and Pakistan. I would take the pleasure to introduce these incredible speakers to participate. Our speakers are Dr. Lenin Raghuvanshi from India, Pirbhu Satyani from Pakistan, Ujwal Gupta from USA, and Rakshya Bam from Nepal. So introducing our first speaker, Dr. Landon Raghavanshi. Lenin is an Dalit right activist, the political thinker, and social entrepreneur. He is one of the founding members of People Vigilance Community on Human Rights, which works for uplifting the marginalized sections of society. His work has been recognized with awards like International Human Rights Prize, the City of Weimar, Special Mentions Prize of Human Rights to the France Republic. Please, Mr. Raghavanshi, shed some light on this subject. Over to you.
The most important thing, if you look, this is a very old trend because there is a feudal structures, and before the feudal structure, there is a caste system and mind of patriarchy, which create the hegemonic masculinity. And due to many democratic struggles and due to many feminist struggles, many struggles for the rights of the marginalized people and especially for the minority rights also. That creates a lot of dynamics. And what happened, I will tell you, most important thing in the South Asia, especially if you are going to talk Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India, we need to understand few phenomena before that. One phenomena, what happened, there is a Manusmriti came in this area. And this Manusmriti, the whole idea is the idea of the Superman. And it is the idea of hegemonic masculinity. And Manusmriti influenced to Sanatan religion and Hindu religion and create, there is hierarchy inside religion 2000 years ago. When the Islam also came, that also influenced by that. And they also influenced by the mind of the hegemonic masculinity, mind of caste and patriarchy. And and if you look in the freedom struggle, of the whole subcontinent, is Indian subcontinent, from the British colonial states. And that time, the elites of both sides who believe in the hegemonic masculinity, they come together and create an alliance, Hindu Mahasabha and Muslim Leagues in 1936. And they gave the two-nation story. This two-nation story is not for the rights of the marginalized. It is not a rights for the for the minority people. It is a way to control their own powers and control their own slaves. And what happened inside India, if you look, a very progressive constitution came. And for that reasons, a force like RSS Hindu fascist forces, they declared they did not believe into the constitution. They did not believe in our tricolor flag. And it is good today they started to recognize the tricolor flag, but there is a big problems. They did not recognize the spirit of constitutions, because the constitutions talk about the um, opportunity to everybody, providing the affirmative actions to marginalized community, to protect the minorities, giving the rights to the women and all. And they want to the hegemonic masculinity of the kind of caste and patriarchy, and that is the biggest problem. And the second hand, if you look what happened, um, also in the Pakistan and in the Nepal, there is also mind of caste. There is and the caste system is there. Patriarchy was there, and there. And for that reason, also the spirit of Medina Constitution, there is no citizenship concept that time also. But the spirit of the Medina Constitution did not come on the reality in this part of the world also. And in this way, if you look, without the eliminating hegemonic masculinity of mind and caste, it is the impossible to bring any real democracy in this part of the world. And the all problem only lies with them. And for that, we need to create a very vibrant, proactive movements, one hand on the grassroots level, but which is based on the diversity, pluralism. We need to respect different opinions, and we need to resolve through the non-violence, which is very, very important. Otherwise, these fascist forces are going to become very, very powerful. And the killing of Gandhi in India is a killing of the real democracy in South Asia. And we need to understand. And when the spirit of Gandhi and Dr. Ambedkar going to become the reality in this part of the South Asia, then the real democracy is going to come here, and also we are going to create the dynamics for the better world. I want to tell that there is a two opinions. They have the friendly contradiction, Gandhi and Ambedkar. But when Gandhi was killed by the Godse, Dr. Ambedkar was the first person who came on his dead body. And when the Nehru brought to the first cabinet, Gandhiji was first person who brought the name of Dr. Ambedkar as a law minister. And because he understands what the Dr. Ambedkar, so it is very, very important, especially for India. I am telling, Gandhi is a father of our nation, but the Dr. Ambedkar is a father of the modern India. And when the modern India is going to create, we are going to eliminate a lot of different conflicts, and also we are going to contribute in South Asia and the world. So here is the real fight is going on. It is the pregnancy time. The real democracy is coming on, and big conflicts are going on. But I'm very hopeful, because there is a constitution, there is a fight, there is aspirations. People are making alliance with each other's. Against, people are talking about Dr. Ambedkar and Gandhi, and people understand it is a friendly contradictions, and people are talking against the fascist forces. So it is a wonderful time, especially in India. I'm looking in the 10 and 15 years, very different India, in form of to giving, just like people who born in the upper caste family like me, to create reconciliations and use our resources and everything for the not the upliftment and the resilience of the most marginalized community in this part of the world. And without that, nothing going to happen. So without the elimination of caste system, without the eliminations of the patriarchy, without the eliminations of the undemocratic, violent-based hegemonic masculinity, it is the impossible to create any democratic structures in this part of the India. That is the biggest threat. We have the very good constitution, especially in India and also in the Nepal nowadays. But the biggest problem is the societal structure. Who is going to implement? Dr. Ambedkar told that. And most we have the constitution, but the whole institutions are captured by these fascist forces. So it is also important to change the mindset, and that is most important thing. And it is my thought process.
Firstly, happy Independence Day to you, Mr. Lennon, and secondly, thank you very much for joining
Yeah,
us.
same to you also in the Pakistan 1 day delays. Happy Independence Day.
Thank you, thank you. So moving forward, our second speaker is Pirbhu Satyani. He belongs to Thapa in Pakistan. He is Fulbright Herbert H. Parfani Fellow Study Law and Human Rights in American University and Ministry Fellow of the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights. Mr. Satyani has worked in senior positions such as the regional head SOP Sindh and senior coordinator Save the Children. Along with that, Satyani is an author of book Hame Bhi Jeene Do, Plight of Hindu Dalits in Pakistan, and conducted various research studies and organized policy dialogue on various issues. Please go ahead and share your views on this. Over to you.
Thank you, Heman. Thank you, South Asia Research Institute for Minorities for having me today in this, the international webinar on the very important topic, the undemocratic dilemma and persecution of the marginalized community in South Asia. Before coming on the topic, my friend Lenin, he has just wished me the Independence Day. So I would like to congratulate both the countries, India and Pakistan, for celebrating 75, the independence. Yesterday we had a diamond jubilee, and I think today might be you are celebrating the golden jubilee like that. If you see that, in the last 75 years, there has been much change between the two countries. But if they not change, that is, the condition of the people who are the marginalized community, who are the religious minority in the both countries. So let me first share, the topic coming on the topic, the undemocratic dilemma. When we talk about the democracy, we talk about the human rights, we talk about the religious freedom, we talk about the equality. We also talk about the participation of people in the decision making, the right to vote, and so many things. But if we look around, the undemocracy in these countries or in the world, but the democracy is also, that gives us a guarantee of inclusiveness, the social coexistence, and even also provide the opportunity for us to respect each other and so many things. But when we see around the world, you might, through the media and other sources on the social media, we always see so many the issues and the violations in the world. In the many countries, it exists everywhere, not only in the South Asia, but it is, in the various countries. Might be somewhere less or somewhere more, but it exists. Discrimination on the basis of, the caste and religion are the serious issues in these countries. And that's a very sensitive topic. So if you see the effects of these, the undemocratic dilemma, then of course it violates the human rights and undermine the pluralism and social values of the people in different countries. In the South Asian countries, India and Pakistan has much influence on the South Asian country, whether it is Nepal or Sri Lanka, Bangladesh or Afghanistan, and you can see. But again, we have similar issues in terms of the persecution of minorities or the discrimination with the Dalit communities like that. Maybe in Pakistan, the Hindus and the Christians, they are in the minority, but the Hindus are the majority in the India. Similarly, if you see the in the Nepal, the Hindus are in the majority, but again the Muslims and the other community Dalits, they are being persecuted. In Bangladesh, again, is a Muslim country, but Hindus and the Christians, they face various problems in the Bangladesh. So the the minority in the one country is also they are in the majority in the other country. And they face, the different issues and challenges because of their, the social status, their religious identity. So we are facing, the challenges wherever we are, whether in any country, in Pakistan, India, or in Nepal, or in Bangladesh, or anywhere. But coming to the Pakistan, let me share, some of the challenges that we are facing. Pakistan was created in 1947, and that Pakistan is a diverse country. We have various faith of peoples in the Pakistan. The founder of the Pakistan, when he created Pakistan, before 3 days, he had a great speech on the 11th August 1947, and he said, "You are free to go to your temple. You are free to go to your church. You are free to go anywhere, wherever you want. The state has nothing to do with the religious affairs." So this was, this is the guarantee from his side. He was very much clear in his vision. But what happened? The Jannah was passed away, in 1948, within a year, and then the things started to change. Very soon, on that time, the first, the Constituent Assembly, that was very inclusive and democratic in Pakistan. Like in India, the Ambedkar was the law minister, but in the Pakistan, the Jogindernath Mandal, he was from the Dalit community. He was also the law minister and the chairperson of the Constituent Assembly. But what happened, within a year, the things started to change when they started to draft the objective resolution of the country. The country was created, and then they started to think that what will be the objective of the country. So, this is the biggest tragedy. And when those people who were in minority in the Constituent Assembly, they realized that, we became a part of this country because of the democratic values, inclusiveness, and all these things. But now what is going on with this country? So they were not, the part of the objective resolution. Even they criticized and they raised their concern, but they were not heard. And ultimately what happened, the Jogindernath Mandal, who was the Minister of the Law and the chairperson of the Constituent Assembly, he resigned himself and he left the country. So this is the, short, the background of the country that I wanted to share, that, how it affected to the, recently we are 220 million people, and Pakistan is, the fifth most populous country in the world. And within the population, when Pakistan was created, we were, like Hindus, we were 23%. And now we are only 4% the religious minority, less than 4%. And within that, if you see, the Hindus are still the biggest religious minority in the Pakistan. There is also another issue, the post-conversion, which the minority community, they are facing. And every year we have, thousands of girls, they are being abducted and converted into other religion. The reason is, because they belong to the minority community and they are weak in the society. They are the easy target to abduct and convert these girls. And if you again look to these girls, they belong to the majority of these girls belong to the Dalit community because they work in the agriculture area and the bricklayer area, and where they are subjected to abduct and convert. So this is, the other issue. But again, if you look around, the curriculum of the Pakistan, we have still, the reservation on the curriculum because the curriculum itself is, is biased, and it depicts that the Hindus are the enemy of the country. So it creates hate. Recently, we have a much discussion to reform the curriculum. Even the Prime Minister of the Pakistan, he initiated the single nation curriculum. There is still, there's some of the opinion that, this curriculum, how it will reflect to the minority community in the country like that. But, but there is no such progress on this. But again, if you see the population of the country, particularly the Dalit communities, and within the Dalit communities, you see that, the sanitation worker issue, the most of the sanitation work is carried out by the non-Muslims, mostly from the Hindu community or the Christian community. And whenever they advertise to hire any sanitation work, they clearly mention that only the non-Muslim can apply. And we think, this is the violation of the International Labour Organization, it's a violation of the Article 36 of the Constitution of Pakistan, and they shouldn't advertisement. This work can be done by anyone who deserves, but it should not be, the particular for the non-Muslims, or the Hindus or the Christians. If you see the Pakistan, we have many good things. Again, as my friend Lenin, he has mentioned that, the constitution of the India, similarly in the Pakistan, the constitution, we have a guarantee, religious freedom is guaranteed. There are article 8 to 28 that talks about the fundamental rights. And again, we had a very landmark judgment by the Supreme Court on 19th June 2014. That judgment is very inclusive, that talks about the protection of the minorities, that, that they have given the clear direction to the government to implement these directions. Like these directions are the 5% job quota for the religious minorities, to hire the people from the minority community in the police force, to ensure the protection of the religious places of the minorities. Even, there are certain other things to reform the curriculum, to form the National Commission for Minorities in the Pakistan, like these. This is I can think after the Janaz speech, this is the one of the kind of it, the legal, the verdict that we have in Pakistan from the Supreme Court, and that I think that needs to be implemented in the true state. Again, we have in Pakistan, we have several dedicated institutions that talks about the human rights on the minority rights. Like we have ministries, we have minority rights commissions, we have Sindh Human Rights Commissions. Even Pakistan has committed so many international conventions and rights, international treaties, the UN conventions. That also, the guarantee about the human rights and the minority rights. And Pakistan is the party of that, these treaties. And even Pakistan is the beneficiary of the GSP Plus, and GSP Plus is conditional to promote and protect the rights of the minorities within the country. So now there are so many things in the country, but we need to do it because again I said that the issues are mostly similar in the South Asian countries, and I think in Pakistan the SARC itself has a great role. The SARC countries, even the SARC itself, can play their role to create a mutual trust, peace, and tolerance in the region. And again, within the country, there is a great role of religious leaders. They can play their role to talk against those who create hatred within the country. Even the media has a great role within, between India and Pakistan. They can play their role. Earlier, we had the good discussion between the two countries, but in the last 3 years, I could not see any development between India and Pakistan. There is the completely, I can say that deadlock between two countries. And if there is a good relation between the two countries, we can resolve so many issues in India or in Pakistan. And the local issues, what I have raised, that can be resolved by the country. There is a need to have a legislation on the post-conversion in the country in Pakistan. And we also again need to promote the multicultural society and protect the rights of the minority in whole the South Asia, not only in the Pakistan or India, in the Nepal, in the Bangladesh, in the Sri Lanka, in the Afghanistan, anywhere where we are. So this is, the three, from my side, but if the time allows, then we can again speak. Thank you very much.
I totally appreciate and agree with you, Pirbhu. Thank you for sharing your views. Now I would like to turn it over to Purkho, my co-host, to welcome our next speaker. Over to you, Purkho.
Thank you, Amandas, for introduction. Hello and good afternoon, all respected speakers. Now I would move to third guest speaker, Ms. Rakshya Bam. She's working as a social worker and is the executive coordinator at Ujwal Thapa Foundation, council member at US Embassy Youth Council Nepal, and team leader at Amaro Sano Prayas. She is always vocal to the issues of minorities and has led various campaigns for the minorities in Nepal. Over to you, Ms. Rakshya.
Okay, so let me start. So this topic is very interesting for me. And you have given me the topic is all about marginalized communities of South Asia and the impact that have created by undemocratic dilemma in their lives. So I would like to start with the actual meaning of marginalization at first. As we all know, the marginalization means excluding people, groups, community due to race, gender, identity, sexual orientation, age, physical ability, languages, etc., which occurs due to unequal power and unequal relationship between social groups. So, in today's scenario, due to various systems, regions, restrictions, and different prathas, these people face discrimination, prosecutions, and violence from the people belonging to other high caste and high class, and are subjected to be a victim of injustice in the society in terms of access to education, job opportunities, marital bonding, as well as other basic human rights. So if we talk about South Asia, we went through a lot of war in the name of religion, and majority of marginalized people and minorities are suffering because of it. For example, Rohingya Muslim in South Asia are suffering and has been persecuted by Buddhist of Myanmar. So this is the current burning issues the world is witnessing. The South Asian region of the world poses some similarities. We are very similar, related, or connected, I would say. We share communal harmony, similar languages, culture, tradition, but the thing is, we also share similar problems, be it gender violence and discrimination, corruption, caste system, the problems of marginalized communities. They're very similar. So every day we hear news about how Dalit people are being brutally murdered, how women being raped, and how people in LGBTIQ community are affected by the social system. People from Dalit community are still not allowed to visit the temple, nor are they allowed to share the same drinking water sources. This is very inhuman act. So marginalized community, minorities, and Dalit people are not simply killed. They are humiliated, tortured, disfigured, and destroyed. Is not this a kind of mental illness? So up to when will they be paying a price for their equality and freedom, for their rights, for the justice? They beat them up and parade naked if a Dalit touches their food or water taps. So, in context of Nepal, if we talk about Nepal, Nepal is a young nation regarding democracy and republic. There were many ups and downs, many revolutions and restorations, but still, we have stood as a federal democratic republic country since 2008 AD. But the irony is, despite having democratic form of government and written constitutions where all the rights of minorities and marginalized groups are preserved, they still face hardship in their lives, and they don't have access to the justice, which is for me is very undemocratic and injustice. Some groups in society get everything they need, like power, money, status, education, medical facilities, and rights, etc., while others are deprived of all these things. So I have been always vocal to the issues of marginalized and minorities, and I believe to become the voice of the voiceless. I really want to share some of the case study of Nepal now with you. So I remember one incident of 2020 where a Dalit boy named Navraj Bike and his friends from Jajarkot, Nepal, had gone over to another village to bring home his girlfriend as a Navraj bride. So tragedy followed immediately as the villagers pelted stones and chased the group of young boys, including Navraj, to the source of the very river, where they were swept away. What was their fault? Because Navraj was a Dalit boy and his would-be bride is a Thakuri girl, which is a high caste girl in Nepal. They killed them. They killed Navraj and his five friends. So it is very heartrending that caste-based prejudice persists in the world of this 21st century. Marginalized people suffer for generation to generation, and they have been abused as long as anyone can remember. Also, if we talk about rights of marginalized segments of the population in Nepal, just yesterday, our president didn't assent a new citizenship bill, which was approved by the majority in the House of Representatives, due to which millions of Nepali remain stateless in their own nation. And because of this, majority of marginalized group and minorities are affected. So according to the report published in 2017, around 5.2 million people are stateless in Nepal. Similarly, if we talk about Maoist insurgency in Nepal, which was a civil war initiated by the Communist Party of Nepal, with the stated purpose of overthrowing the Nepalese monarchy and establishing a people's republic, this insurgency resulted in the deaths of over 17,000 people, including civilians, insurgents, and army police, and widespread displacement of people who were taken from their home without any reason by the government and insurgents themselves. And still their family are waiting for them. This is the biggest irony. Their family are waiting for them and they have not returned yet. It's been almost 3 decades and they don't have any idea what have happened to their son, to their husband and the brothers. And also the irony is the insurgents are themselves government today, but they are doing nothing. They're not doing anything. And especially marginalized community of Nepal have been affected by this Maoist insurgency the most. Most of them belong to the marginalized communities and minorities. The government of Nepal has largely ignored its obligation to provide protection to the internally displaced persons, especially those who are forced to flee their home due to action by the government forces. So similarly, we have Madhes movement, which was led by people of Madhesi community, who are one of the marginalized community of Nepal. They led Madhes movement demanding their rights and justice, where 7 to 8 years old boys shot to death by the government during the protest. Because of the ignorance of government, Madhesi people are still suffering, still demanding their rights. So there are many other issues in Nepal that majority of marginalized and minorities are facing. If you have, we have more time, then I will share with you other day. But I would like to conclude this by saying that it is important to emphasize that despite written constitutions that promise religious and social freedom, the minorities and marginalized groups continue to face violence, persecutions, and exclusion from society in South Asian nations. So it is not that people from marginalized community do not participate in the state mechanism, but their level of participation is very low and needs improvement. They should be provided with equal rights and justice, not only in the constitutions, but also in reality. So thank you, that's my part. That's what I understand about marginalized community, issue about the marginalized and minorities. Thank you.
Thank you for your insightful discussion, Rakshya ji. I appreciate your words. To conclude the webinar, I would like to invite Rimsha Shahid, research analyst at SARIM, to share her views and to present to end notes. Ms.
So thank you so much, Purkho, for introducing me. Before wrapping up the discussion, I would like to thank all the speakers for making this discourse an insightful one. You all literally discussed the ground realities regarding the shaky democratic structure of South Asian countries and the repercussions caused by such unstable democratic structure. While concluding the discourse, I would like to sum up the views that has been discussed by our speakers. Firstly, Dr. Landon Raghavanshi shared his views through the lens of historic evolution of democratic structure in South Asian countries. He opined that at the time of colonial era, the elites from both sides believed in the hegemonic masculinity and caste hierarchy. Despite having the constitutional equality for every individual, people are still practicing the inequality on the basis of caste and gender. He argued that to eliminate these unbiased notions and practices, we need to work on vibrant, proactive movements to promote diversity, pluralism, and freedom of expression. The discussion then followed by Mr. Pirbhu Satyani, who argued that despite of celebrating Diamond Jubilee of freedom in both the countries, we are still not free in real sense. While highlighting the ground realities, he said that as far as government's machinery is concerned in South Asian countries, certain groups of people, specifically minority groups, are deprived of social values, fundamental rights, and opportunities that directly weigh out the essence of democracy, consequently resulting in democratic dilemma in the region. In last, highlighting the significance of regional body like SARC, as these types of regional organs can really create an impact in making the democracy stable, while urging member states to maintain healthy democratic relation with one another. Lastly, the floor took over by Ms. Rakshya Bam, who discussed the key problems of Dalit communities like murder, rape, caste, and religious discrimination, even in the so-called democratic states. She argued that despite having constitutional standings of all the basic rights with the praxis of democratic mechanism, Dalit people were highly facing discrimination since generation and are subjected to alienation even today. To eliminate this issue, the community led various movements and drives that consequently led them facing grave consequences. So the objective of this webinar is to highlight the plight of people who are discriminated because of their religion, caste, creed, and social identity. Moreover, this webinar aims to discuss the imperiled state of democracy in South Asian countries. According to a report released by Minority Rights Group International, the persecution of religious minorities in South Asia has intensified in recent years and has now reached to a critical level. Despite having the democratic form of government, the region of South Asia is suffering a very conservative approach of granting people the right to live, speak, and practice religious and social conducts. Over the past 2 years, the Council of Europe's advisory body has continued to observe the rise of nationalist, populist, and xenophobic movements and political parties. While many persons belonging to national minorities still cannot participate fully in their society's cultural, economic, and public life, populist xenophobic discourse in the name of the majority is seeking to limit their space even further. In order to enable the most vulnerable communities to effectively participate in democratic processes, states must address basic obstacles such as poverty, literacy or low levels of education, lack of identification documents, social exclusion, and special segregation. Besides, training the minorities representatives to facilitate negotiations should be considered. Hence, SARIM, owing to its vision, has organized this webinar with the aim to focus on highlighting the ignorance of authority towards assuring a pure democratic structure and the repercussions of unstable and unequal governance mechanism, and to devise some way forwards to make democratic structure more efficient and operational. I would again like to thank you all for your presence and for sharing your views through our platform and helping us in advancing this cause. We hope that the collaboration will grow further with you all. And last, I would like to thank you, Heman and Purkho, for efficiently moderating the webinar, and a thumbs up to the team of SARIM for making efforts in reaching the same cause. Wish you all a good day and good luck for future endeavors. Thank you so much for being with us. Goodbye to you all.